Okay, let's dive in. Today we're unpacking a career that's, well, statistically, it's almost unique in Hollywood history. We're talking about Willard Carroll Smith II, Will Smith. Actor, rapper, film producer. I mean, he's shaped pop culture for, what, 4 decades now?
Yeah, and unique is the right word. Bankable, for sure, but also incredibly versatile. This is someone whose films, get this, have pulled in over $10 billion worldwide at the box office.
10 billion, that's just staggering.
It really is. It puts him right up there in the absolute top tier of Hollywood earners. He's undeniably one of the most bankable stars on the planet.
Right, that's the commercial success, and it's huge. But our mission today, our deep dive, is really to unpack that whole journey. How do you balance that kind of massive box office pull with, genuine critical acclaim?
And he got there. I mean, an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, a BAFTA.
Yeah.
Oh, and 4 Grammys from his music career.
Exactly. It's like a checklist of industry domination artistically and financially. His resume is just packed.
And that Oscar win, that came pretty late in the game, relatively speaking. Winning Best Actor in 2021 for King Richard, that made him only the 5th black actor ever to win that award.
A huge achievement. It really cemented his status not just as a megastar, but as a serious, dramatic actor.
Totally. It underscored that dual legacy. Back in 2006, Time magazine named him one of the 100 most influential people in the world. And then fast forward to that Oscar win.
But as we all know, that incredible high point, that career peak, was almost immediately overshadowed by, well, a single, very public incident that completely changed the narrative around him.
Right. It makes you look back differently.
We really need to dig into how he built that initial image, that control, and then how it all seemed to dissolve. So let's rewind. Let's go back to the beginning. The Fresh Prince. Okay, so Will Smith, born September 25, 1968, West Philadelphia. His upbringing sounds like an interesting mix. Raised Baptist, but went to a private Catholic elementary school.
Yeah, a bit of structure there. But the real origin story for his public persona, the Fresh Prince brand, it wasn't really school. It came down to a notebook.
The famous notebook story.
No.
He started rapping young, around 12. And like a lot of kids then, he was probably writing stuff that was, trying to be edgy.
Exactly. He admitted later his early lyrics were full of profanity. But his grandmother found this notebook.
And instead of just telling him off.
Right. She wrote him a note inside it. And the message was basically, look, truly smart people don't need to swear to get their point across. Show me how smart you are with clean language.
Wow. And that little moment.
It became everything. It was the strategic foundation for his whole early career. He took it seriously. He deliberately focused on lighthearted storytelling raps. No profanity.
Which immediately made him different, right? More accessible.
Totally. Think about the mid to late 80s hip-hop scene. A lot of it was pretty hardcore. His stuff could play anywhere. It reached younger audiences, suburban audiences, people who maybe weren't listening to NWA.
And that unique style led straight to the partnership, meeting DJ Jazzy Jeff. That was pure chance, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1985. Jeff's usual hype man didn't show up for a party.
Yeah.
Smith just jumped in. Apparently, the chemistry was instant.
So DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince was born. They brought in Ready Roxy as the beatboxer.
Clarence Holmes, yeah. And their first single, Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble, dropped in 86. Smith was just finishing high school.
And they blew up pretty fast.
Oh, absolutely. They really broke ground. You can't underestimate how big that 1989 Grammy win was. For parents just don't understand.
Because that was the very first Grammy for Best Rap Performance.
The very first. The Grammys were only just starting to even acknowledge hip-hop as legitimate, and boom, they win the first one ever given out in that category. Pioneers.
Incredible. And then they followed up with Summertime in 91.
Which was even bigger commercially. Hit number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, got them a second Grammy. They were huge. Yep. Chart toppers, award winners, all with this clean, friendly image.
They were everywhere. MTV, too.
Right. First rap act to win the Grammys in that category, and the first rap act to win an MTV Video Music Award for Best Rap Video.
Yeah.
They were making the genre mainstream, palatable to the big award shows, paving the way.
Which makes the next part so wild. You've got this global star, 2 Grammys, squeaky clean image, and he's going broke.
It seems completely backwards, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, around 88, 89, despite all the success, the Fresh Prince was apparently spending money like crazy.
Just living the high life.
Yeah, buying houses, cars, jewelry, gifts for everyone. But the real killer wasn't just the spending, it was the taxes. She seriously underpaid his income taxes.
How does that even happen at that level? Bad advice.
Probably a mix of things: youth, maybe not the best financial guidance, just not grasping the implications of earning that much money that fast.
So what was the fallout? We hear this $2.8 million figure.
Yeah, that was the tax debt the IRS assessed against him. And they came after it hard. Seized his stuff, cars, property, you name it. Started garnishing his income.
So even as he's releasing hits,
The government is taking a huge chunk of the money coming in. He went from millionaire to essentially broke and deeply in debt almost overnight. It must have been terrifying.
so the acting pivot, it wasn't just a career move, it was survival.
Absolutely. 1990 rolls around. He's in this massive financial hole. And NBC comes calling. They see the appeal, the charisma he has.
And they build a whole sitcom around him, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Exactly. It wasn't just, let's try acting. It was, I need this to work. He had to move across the country, learn a whole new skill set. But the show was a massive hit.
And it let him pay off that huge tax debt, right?
Took a few years, but yeah, it totally saved him financially. And it just completely changed his path. He wasn't a rapper who acted anymore. He was becoming an actor who also did music.
And the show itself, its cultural impact was enormous.
Oh, huge. Fresh Prince is rightly seen as a landmark for black television, for hip-hop culture crossing over, showing a young black man in that wealthy Bel-Air setting. That was revolutionary for network TV back then.
It really legitimized that rapper-to-actor pipeline, and it let him keep that clean, aspirational image going, the one he'd built ever since his grandma's note. #Tag3, Hollywood ascendancy, and dual career peaks, 1993, 2007.
Right. So once Fresh Prince established him and got him out of that financial mess, Smith wasn't just reacting anymore. He started planning. Strategically.
This is where he sets that famous goal, right? Biggest movie star in the world.
Yeah, he actually said that out loud. And it wasn't just talk, he got methodical about it.
What did that mean? Studying box office hits. How does that work?
He literally looked at the data. What movies made the most money globally in the 80s and early 90s? What do they have in common?
And what did you find?
Simple stories, often. Things that played well everywhere, didn't need complex translation, universal themes, family, heroism. Fighting aliens apparently helps too.
Huh. Right.
So high-concept sci-fi and big action movies. He figured that was the formula for global billion-dollar appeal. He was basically reverse engineering superstardom from market research.
Pretty smart, actually. And he started putting it into practice quickly. After Fresh Prince, he did 6 Degrees of Separation, which was serious drama.
Showed his range. But then came Bad Boys in 95.
With Martin Lawrence, Michael Bay directing, that felt like the blueprint.
Exactly. It proved the concept. Made over $140 million worldwide on a decent budget. Showed he could carry a big action comedy franchise. But the real monster hit, the proof of his theory, was the year after.
Independence Day, 1996. That film was everywhere.
It was the definition of a global blockbuster. Fighting aliens, huge spectacle. Exactly what his research pointed to. At the time, it was the second highest grossing film ever, just behind Titanic.
Wow. So that's when he really became Will Smith, the movie star.
Absolutely. That movie made him indispensable. His name alone could get a massive film greenlit.
And then the next year, 97, he doubles down with Men in Black.
Which was just perfect for him, wasn't it? Sci-fi, action, comedy. It made a fortune. Over $589 million globally. Third biggest film of the year. It just crystallized his brand.
But Men in Black was more than just the movie, right? This is where the music strategy comes back in.
Yes. This was genius. He launched his solo music career with the theme song Men in Black.
So the movie sells the song sells the movie.
Exactly. Cross-promotion perfection. The single was massive, top charts everywhere, won him another Grammy, this time for Best Rap Solo Performance. And the album it was on, Big Willie Style.
Went platinum how many times?
9 times platinum in the U.S. Incredible. It wasn't just success, it was total market dominance.
And he kept that formula going.
Nailed it again. Getting jiggy with it in 98, his first #1 in the Billboard Hot 100, another Grammy. Then Wild Wild West in 99, another #1 hit, tied directly to the movie. He'd built this multimedia empire around himself, a self-funding cash machine.
Okay, but speaking of Wild Wild West, this brings us to maybe the biggest what if in his career, The Matrix.
Ah, yes, the legendary decision.
Yeah.
She turned down the role of Neo in The Matrix to make Wild Wild West.
And The Matrix changed everything, Wild Wild West. Well, the song was huge, but the movie, not so much.
It was a critical flop and didn't perform as expected commercially either. So looking back, choosing the steampunk western over the revolutionary sci-fi epic seems questionable, especially given his data-driven approach.
Did he ever regret it? He said he didn't, right? That Keanu Reeves was better for Neo.
That's what he maintains. He said when he read the script for The Matrix, he just didn't quite get it.
Mm.
He didn't understand the Wachowskis' vision, especially the complex visual stuff they were planning. Remember, they'd only made Bound before that.
So he thought he might mess it up?
Sort of.
Yeah.
He framed it like he didn't want to be the one responsible for ruining something potentially revolutionary. And he genuinely seems to believe Keanu was the perfect choice. He did admit, though, that Wild Wild West could have been better, which is maybe an understatement.
Interesting. So even the calculated star recognized his limits or maybe just had a moment of doubt, but he bounced back. He started chasing critical respect, too.
Absolutely. The blockbusters kept coming, but he wanted that validation. Playing Muhammad Ali in Ali in 2001, that was a huge undertaking.
He completely transformed himself for that role. Physically, vocally.
Obsessively. And it paid off. Got him his first Oscar nomination for Best Actor.
And then again with The Pursuit of Happiness in 2006.
Yeah, a really powerful emotional performance. Co-starring with his son Jaden, got him his second Best Actor nomination. So he was successfully balancing the huge commercial hits with these acclaimed dramatic roles.
He really seemed unstoppable during this period.
Pretty much. It all kind of culminated in 2007 with I Am Legend, post-apocalyptic thriller, basically him alone on screen for large parts of it.
It was massive, right? Biggest December opening ever at the time.
Yep, it completely owned the holiday season. Industry analysts basically crowned him the undisputed #1 box office draw in the world at that point. The data backed it up.
And wasn't there some Guinness World Record thing around then, too?
Yeah. In 2005, for attending 3 movie premieres in different cities within 24 hours, just shows the sheer scale of his global promotional power back then. He was literally everywhere. #4D, career fluctuations, family, and personal deepening. 2008, 2021.
But even at that peak, maybe some signs of challenges starting to appear as we move towards the late 2000s. There wasn't always about choosing the wrong project. Sometimes it was about passing on the right one again.
Right. Like Inception, Christopher Nolan's film. Around 2008, 2009, he turned down the lead role.
And his reason was similar to The Matrix, wasn't it? Too complex.
Pretty much. He said he just didn't really understand the story. It suggests he still preferred clearer, more straightforward narratives, maybe worried that ambiguity wouldn't play as well globally.
Interesting, because that kind of highlights attention, doesn't it? Wanting to be the biggest star, which often means broad appeal, versus taking risks on more complex, maybe less universally accessible material.
Exactly. And while he still had huge hits, Men in Black 3 in 2012 made a ton of money, $624 million globally.
More than the first two, unadjusted.
Yeah. But relying on sequels maybe showed a slight reluctance to launch totally new original stuff at that point.
And then came the project that really felt like a stumble, the one with his son Jaden, After Earth.
Oof. Yeah, 2013, he called that the most painful failure of my career.
Why so painful? Just the box office.
It was bad critically and didn't do well domestically, yeah. But he talked about the psychological impact, the hit to his ego, sure, but also feeling responsible because he'd put Jaden front and center in this massive, expensive sci-fi movie that just cratered.
That makes sense. He took a break after that, didn't he?
Yeah, quite a long one, about 18 months off from acting. Said he needed time to regroup, figure things out after that kind of public failure.
And when he came back, the roles felt different, weightier, like Concussion in 2015.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Playing Dr. Benedict Omalu, the doctor who discovered CTE, the brain disease linked to football head injuries.
That was a brave choice taking on the NFL.
Yeah, and Smith apparently had doubts initially, worried about alienating that huge football fan base, the same audience who loved his blockbusters.
What changed his mind?
He said he was really moved by Dr. Omalu himself. Omalu was an immigrant who felt a duty to expose the truth because he believed so strongly in American ideals. Smith seemed to connect with that, wanting to use his platform for something meaningful, even if it was risky commercially.
That search for meaning seems to continue with Collateral Beauty the next year, 2016. But that one had a really sad personal connection for him.
It really did. His own father was diagnosed with cancer right after he signed on. The film deals heavily with grief, loss, how you cope.
So the research for the role became personal preparation.
Exactly. He said reading about religion, philosophy, how different cultures handle death, it actually helped him prepare for his father passing away later that year. He talked about being there with him at the end, finding a sense of peace, art imitating life, or maybe helping life in a really profound way.
Though the film itself didn't do well commercially.
No, it was actually his lowest box office opening ever at that point.
And late 2010s had other commercial struggles, despite big budgets. Bright for Netflix, Gemini Man.
Yeah, critics were pretty harsh on both of those. Bright got called things like truly terrible. Gemini Man, despite the tech angle with Ang Lee, also got panned. It showed that even his star power and a huge budget weren't a guaranteed formula anymore.
Although Bragg did get massive viewership on Netflix.
It did, set a record for first-week views at the time. So his name still drove eyeballs, especially on streaming, even if critics hated the movie. People still wanted to see Will Smith.
And then just when you think maybe the blockbuster magic is fading, bam, Aladdin.
2019. Playing the genie in the live-action Disney film, a lot of people were skeptical beforehand.
That's huge.
Over $1 billion worldwide. It became his highest-grossing film ever, finally beating Independence Day. Proved he could still absolutely deliver that massive global hit when the project was right.
So this whole time, his career is going through these ups and downs, these interesting choices. But behind the scenes, his personal life, specifically his marriage, is becoming incredibly public and complex.
Yeah, the dynamic with Jada Pinkett Smith really came into the spotlight. They started talking openly about their marriage being unconventional, that bad marriage for life joke they made.
But it went beyond jokes. They both admitted to having relationships outside the marriage, believing in that freedom.
Which is a radical departure from that clean-cut family man image he'd cultivated for so long.
Yeah.
Smith even talked about exploring polyamory at one point, though he said therapy helped him realize it wasn't for him.
It felt like a deliberate move towards radical honesty.
It did. But the biggest bombshell, the one that puts a lot of subsequent events in a different light, came much later, actually in 2023. Jada revealed they had secretly been separated since 2016.
Since 2016, wow. So for all those years, appearing together, talking about their marriage, they were living separate lives.
Completely separate lives, apparently. Still legally married, committed to never divorcing, but not a couple in the traditional sense. That adds a whole layer of complexity to everything that happened in the public eye during that period.
It really does. And all this personal stuff is swirling around as he's also doing this deep dive into himself with his memoir, Will, in 2021.
Co-written with Mark Manson, yeah. And that book was incredibly revealing. Talked about childhood trauma, his difficult relationship with his father, even his experiences using ayahuasca for spiritual exploration.
He basically said the happy-go-lucky persona was a defense mechanism,
Right.
covering up insecurity and pain.
Pretty much. It was him trying to deconstruct the very image he'd spent decades building. It felt like a real push towards authenticity, however messy.
And then, right as all this vulnerability is coming out the book, the marriage details, he hits the absolute peak of his acting career.
The timing was incredible. Winning the Oscar, the Golden Globe, the BAFTA, the SAG Award, sweeping the board for playing Richard Williams in King Richard, a lifetime achievement kind of a moment, happening right when his personal life felt the most exposed and complicated. #TagTedV. The defining incident and career repercussions, 2022 present. And then came the moment where it all just collided. The carefully crafted image, the private turmoil, the public stage. The Oscars, March 27, 2022.
Chris Rock is presenting, makes that joke about Jada's shaved head, referencing G.I. Jane.
And we have to remember the context. Jada had been very public about having alopecia areata since 2018.
Which is an autoimmune disorder causing hair loss. So for her, and many people with alopecia, it's not just a style choice. It's a medical condition that can be really sensitive.
Exactly. So Rock's joke, whether he knew the full context or not, landed badly, very badly. And Smith's reaction was instant.
Gets up, walks on stage, slaps Chris Rock across the face, then goes back to his seat and yells twice, "Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth."
Yeah. Decades of that famous Will Smith cool just evaporated in seconds. Raw anger, broadcast live around the world. It was shocking.
What happened right after? Inside the theater, chaos.
Pretty much. The Academy later said they asked Smith to leave the ceremony, but he refused. And then minutes later, they announced Best Actor. And it's him.
Talk about cognitive dissonance.
Right. He gives this tearful acceptance speech, apologizing to the Academy, apologizing to the other nominees, but notably, no apology to Chris Rock at that moment. He stayed for the rest of the show.
The public reaction was immediate and huge, right? Divided, but intense.
Oh, yeah. It completely dominated the conversation, overshadowing his win, overshadowing everything else about the night. He put out a formal apology on Instagram pretty quickly afterwards, said he was heartbroken, his actions were unacceptable and inexcusable.
But the Academy had to respond institutionally.
They did. First, Smith resigned from the Academy himself on April 1st. Said he wanted the focus back on the winners, that he'd betrayed the trust of the Academy. Resigning meant he couldn't vote anymore, maybe seen as a move to preempt being kicked out.
And then the Academy made its decision.
April 8th. They banned him from attending any Academy events, including the Oscars ceremony itself, for 10 years. He accepted the decision.
And the career fallout, did it hit his bankability?
Immediately. That carefully built family brand took a massive hit. Projects started getting paused or shelved.
Like that Netflix movie, Fast and Loose?
Yeah, Netflix just pulled the plug completely. It sent a clear signal. Studios were suddenly nervous about investing huge money in someone whose public image had become so volatile. Stability is key for those big investments.
His next film out was Emancipation, the slavery drama for Apple. That came out later in 2022. How did that do?
It was considered a commercial failure. And the producer, Todd Black, actually came out and said he thought the controversy directly hurt the film's performance. People weren't ready, or maybe weren't willing, to separate the art from the artist so soon after the incident.
Did Smith try to adjust it again after the initial apology?
He did. In July 2022, he released a longer on-camera apology video. It seemed much more direct, talked about being deeply remorseful. It felt like a very conscious step towards trying to rebuild bridges and start the public rehabilitation process.
So where does that leave his career now? Is he coming back?
It looks like a calculated return. He's leaning back into the franchises that made him. Things that are maybe less reliant on his personal brand and more on the established IP.
Like Bad Boys.
Exactly. Bad Boys. Ride or Die came out in 2024, did well. And interestingly, they even put a little comedic nod to the slap incident in the movie. Sort of a meta way to acknowledge it and maybe try to move past it.
What else is on the horizon?
He's developing the sequel to I Am Legend, this time with Michael B. Jordan, which is exciting. And he's attached to a couple of other big sci-fi projects, Brilliance and Resistor. The strategy seems clear. Get back to those big, globally appealing genre films.
And the music. He's doing that again too, right? Echoing his early career synergy.
Yeah, definitely mirroring that strategy. He dropped a few singles in 2024, You Can Make It, Work of Art. And he's announced a new album, his 5th studio album, called Based on a True Story, coming in March 2025.
And he's calling it his most personal music.
Which ties right back into the memoir, the push for authenticity. Using music, like he did with the book, to process and share his experiences. It's a fascinating full-circle move. #TagDickD5X. Public image and enduring legacy.
So when we try to sum up his legacy, I mean, you have to start with the impact he had as a pioneer, right?
Absolutely. Complex Magazine pointed out how influential he was in just opening doors for other rappers to move into acting. He made that crossover look not just possible, but hugely successful. He legitimized it.
And the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air itself, its place in TV history is secure.
Totally. A landmark for Black television, changing representation, challenging stereotypes by putting that character in that affluent setting. It had a massive cultural ripple effect.
And just the sheer scale of his financial success, those salaries.
Unbelievable. Reportedly $100 million for Men in Black 3. That shows the kind of guaranteed box office return he represented for so long. Forbes called him the biggest movie star of the post-9/11 era. He defined Hollywood economics for a generation.
But now, there's always the asterisk, isn't there? The tainted perception after the Oscars.
It's unavoidable. That incident sparked so much debate. Commentators widely agreed it damaged that image he'd spent decades crafting, the likable, morally upright family guy. His whole legacy felt suddenly vulnerable.
The LA Times said it put his heroic status in jeopardy, turned his biggest night into something infamous.
Yeah. It's the complete opposite of the controlled narrative he always projected. Right back to that note from his grandmother. It was a public loss of control.
Yet, even in the immediate aftermath, some groups continued to support him.
That's true. He'd won a Razzie Redeemer Award before the incident, interestingly. But even after the slap, he still won awards from the NAACP and the BET Awards in 2022. It suggests his standing, while damaged globally, remains strong within certain communities and institutions.
So it's created this split legacy.
I think that's fair to say. You've got the undisputed global titan measured in billions of dollars and decades of hits. And now, alongside that, you have the weight of that one uncontrolled moment. It's a duality that people will be discussing for a long, long time.
But his roots, they still seem strong. That recent street naming in Philly.
Yeah, that's a great final point. March 2025, a block of 59th Street in West Philly where he grew up was renamed Will Smith Way. He was there for the ceremony.
From the kid writing rhymes in a notebook on that street to having the street named after him.
It shows that whatever the global debate, the local hero status, that connection to where he came from, that seems unshaken.
So, to wrap this all up for you, the listener, we've really traced this incredible, almost unbelievable arc. Started as a clean-cut rapper facing financial ruin, gets saved by TV, then meticulously engineers himself into the biggest movie star in the world.
Balances that with critical acclaim, reaches the absolute pinnacle with the Oscar.
Yeah.
only to have it all thrown into chaos by one impulsive act, a moment that shattered decades of careful image control.
What's so fascinating is that contradiction. His early success was built on being safe, predictable, controlled, but his later work, the memoir, the personal revelations, seemed to be pushing towards something messier, more authentic, more vulnerable.
Right. And now his legacy seems caught between those two things. Is he the perfectly engineered celebrity machine? Or is he the deeply flawed, complex human being we've glimpsed more recently?
Which leads us to our final question for you to think about. We know about the deep personal work documented in his memoir facing childhood trauma, the complicated family stuff, the ayahuasca journeys. We know he says his upcoming album is his most personal music yet. So the question is, does all this give us a more authentic view of Will Smith, even if it's an imperfect one? Should we embrace this more complex picture?
Or is his public image now permanently defined by that single moment at the Oscars? Did that lapse in control, that choice to publicly defend a private boundary so fiercely, actually reveal that the old, carefully constructed Will Smith was still very much there, right beneath the surface of all this self-help and vulnerability?
Something for you to mull over.